Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the week number 7 running back start or sit decisions for the 2024 fantasy football season, going in depth through every single matchup from Thursday Night Football all the way up until the doubleheader on Monday Night Football, telling you guys whether I would start or sit the running backs in every single game. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 7 running back start or sit decisions for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Denver Broncos at the New Orleans Saints, and the New Orleans Saints are as beat up as it gets. No Derek Carr. They're going to be rocking with Timu, Patrick Mahomes, Spencer Rattler for the next couple of games. I'm Rashid Shaheed is banged up as well. And speaking of banged up, Alvin Kamara has been questionable for what feels like every single matchup of the season. He was limited in practice on Monday with the hand injury. And while this is a short week, and I'm as much of a doctor as Mr. Dr. Pepper himself, I am under the assumption that he does end up playing in this game. You would need to take this guy's legs away from him, like his name was Lieutenant Dan, for him to miss. So even up against a Denver Broncos defense that is strong, and even with the injuries to this offense, that just further solidifies to me that this offense is going to run through Alvin Kamara and Rattler. While we did make fun of him saying he looks like Timu, Patrick Mahomes, which if you do look at Mahomes and Spencer Rattler, you can kind of see the similarity through their hairs, but but Spencer Rattler did look competent up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He doesn't look like when Ian Book took over for the New Orleans Saints a couple of years ago in that game up against the Dolphins in prime time. So with Rattler being solid, Kamara should be at minimum a top 18 type of running back, and I got him inside of the top 8. Back-to-back weeks for Jamal Williams with just 2 touches, and unless the Saints end up laying a smackdown here, WWE style, there is zero reason to believe Jamal Williams will get anything higher than like 5 touches, so there's really no need to play him. For the Denver Broncos, I would rather go one-on-one in the octagon with prime John Jones, who was roided to the gills and was hiding from USADA testers underneath the octagon, over playing Javonte Williams. That is how bad Javonte Williams has been. The guy's snaps and workload has been incredibly suspect, and even in a game here where the Broncos could be winning, there could be a positive game script to hand Javonte Williams the ball. I just don't feel confident. His best game was in week 5 in a amazing spot up against the Raiders, and he has scored fewer than 12 fantasy points in 5 of 6 games. And the kicker, he has scored less than 10 points in 3 of 6 games. There is no reason to even chance playing this guy, even if you do believe deep down the talent is there and maybe the snaps will be there this week. Even if you believe both of those things, Javonte to me is a no-go until further notice. And honestly, if you're just holding on to him for dear life and there are other players available on the waivers that you want, don't feel like you need to clasp on to Javonte Williams. I've already cut him off of a couple of my teams. Jaleel McLaughlin barely sees the ball, like his name was Stevie Wonder, so there's no need to start him or even roster him. Even if Javonte was to magically get hurt, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, with how bad the run game has been in Denver, Jaleel wouldn't even be a guy that you would want to start. Next up, we move to London with the New England Patriots at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Stevenson missed last week with a foot injury up against the Texans, The week prior up against my Miami Dolphins, he had our defense clutching their pearls. The man was the running back 4 with 12 carries for 89 yards and a touchdown with 4 receptions for 3 yards. And going up against the Jaguars defense, that is a great spot for Ramondre. If he does suit up, and with how great Drake May looked, Stevenson could easily be a top 12 running back here, which is something that he has done multiple points in this season. If he does play, I am rocking with him as a high-end running back too. Now, when it comes to Antonio Gibson, even without Ramondre last week, Gibson averaged just 1.5 yards per carry on his way to scoring 7.3 PPR points. And if Stevenson is out again, you would be foolish to start Gibson, because even with the offense and Drake May looking so solid, and you would think Gibson would be fine to slot in there, nothing really ended up going his way, and they also used JaMycal Hasty enough to devalue Antonio Gibson even further. So if Stevenson is out, even with how great May looked, I don't feel confident in either Antonio Gibson or Hasty. For the Jaguars, in London last week, back-to-back games in London, it was a disaster for Tank Bigsby, like he got jumped in the Roche pit by evil geniuses. If you're a Dota 2 fan, maybe you get that reference. He played just 27% of the snaps as Dearness Johnson saw a brunt, I'm not even sure what the correct usage of word would be there, a brunt, I guess we'll go with, of the load. He saw a huge load coming his way, following a matchup where he plowed the Indianapolis Colts with 13 carries for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 reception for 28 yards. Now, I am not too worried about what happened last week, as the Patriots allow some of the highest amount of points to running backs in fantasy football, and as long as the Jaguars don't get suplexed like they did by Caleb Williams and the Bears last week, you gotta like Bigsby's chances to at least be a high-end running back 3, but I can't rank him much higher as like a top 20, top 18 running back, as there is still the worry that, hey, Johnson could get too many touches and end up fucking Mr. Bigsby over. Even with ETN being week to week here, and ETN not playing a factor, Johnson does still slightly scare me, so I'm still going to end up rocking with Tank Bigsby. But again, my confidence level isn't as high as it would have been last week if you told me, hey, there's going to be no Tank Bigs, or there's going to be a Tank Bigsby, there's not going to be Eddie Travis Etienne. I would have been bricked up underneath my desk here, but in this scenario, I'm just not as excited. Dearness Johnson, even with seeing more snaps than Bigsby, he had just 6 rushes for 28 yards and 2 catches for 16 yards, so even if he does see a bunch of snaps, again, he won't perform well enough to be useful. Next up, we move to the Seattle Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons to start off the real Sunday slate with 2 running backs that have me very, very excited. Kenneth Walker is another one of those running backs that is basically an instant start. If Kenneth Walker was your running back 1 and Bijan Robinson was your running back 2, or vice versa based upon where you drafted them, you wouldn't even have had to watch today's video, because you know those guys are going into your lineup. Now, I don't even care about the matchup when it comes to a guy like Kenneth Walker. I am just going to blindly go in and rank him inside the top 8 or 12. Now, this week, going up against the Falcons, a defense that does not concern me very much, I expect KW3, Kenneth Walker III, to hop back on the saddle, Sadie Adler style, as a top 12 running backs. His targets have jumped in a big way over the last 2 weeks, with 8 in back-to-back games, and he had 14 carries for 32 yards and a touchdown last week with 8 catches for 37 yards as a top 12 back. I got him as a top 5 running back on the week. Zach Charbonnet continues to see his 6 to 8 touches a week, and when Walker is healthy, that just is not enough to start him. He is one of the best handcuffs in fantasy football, because you know if Kenneth Walker goes down, Zach Charbonnet is going to see a workhorse level of snaps, a workhorse running back level of touches, and has multiple touchdown upside. But with Sir Kenneth Walker III healthy, you cannot play him. Now, Atlanta Falcons running back Bijan Robinson. Last week, we decided to do an experiment like we were in the laboratory, and our name was Dexter. And what I said was that we are going to teach Bijan Robinson a lesson. We are going to throw him into the brig, right? We're going to say, you know what? We're still starting Bijan Robinson, but I'm going to lower him down the rankings because the guy has been plowing us without the use of lube for what has felt like the whole entire season. The man, once I decided to demote him, once I took one of his gold stars off of the board, like it was that one SpongeBob episode, he ended up playing well. He stepped up, and that was all according to plan. He was a top 5 running back up against the Panthers in Carolina with 15 carries for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as 3 receptions on 4 targets for 10 yards. He gashed the defense like his name was Jason Voorhees, and I really do believe that Bijan Robinson here up against the Seattle defense that is no bueno up against the run should be back inside of the top 6 conversation. Now, while Bijan Robinson was balling, Tyler Algier joined him as a top 12 back as well. 18 carries for 105 yards and a touchdown with 1 reception for 3 yards. While both of those guys ended up running a train, Thomas the Tank Engine style, in that matchup. And even in a great spot here up against that Seahawks defense, it feels like one of those come back down to earth moments, right? We were thinking, oh, I missed Algier. He's chilling on my bench. Last week, I didn't play him, rightfully so. He has this blow-up game. Now he's going up against the Seahawks. I'm going to get a little cute. I'm going to feel a little bit spicy, and I'm going to start him just for him to be a complete and utter fucking disaster. That was the highest amount of snaps Algier has seen all season in terms of percentage. So I think this is a comeback down-to-earth game for Algier, and I think Bijan should be able to perform yet again. Next up, we move to the LA Titans, the Tennessee Titans at the Buffalo Bills, and Will Levis had the funniest celebration last week. They have been throwing flags left and right for anyone that's whipping out the gun celebration, right? When they're dual wielding like their name was Arthur Morgan. They just throw a million penalties, even if you're not dual wielding like the Akimbo 1887s from Modern Warfare 2, and you're just, you just got one, you got both hands on the same gun there. They still throw the flag. So Will Levis hit the Spider-Man celebration. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, especially since Will Levis is just like a meme every single week. Tony Pollard has been a very reliable mid-range running back too for the whole entire season and has had just one game outside of the top 10. Tajay Spears is week to week with a hamstring injury, and according to head coach Brian Callahan, which will further lead me towards liking Pollard even more. Now, again, when Spears was active, Pollard was still the guy, but with his backup now being Joey's brother, Julius Chestnut, the throat goat, is now the running back too. Without Spears, we should expect a strong amount of TP here, like you just ate that Kai Cenat meal from McDonald's. So with the locked in usage here of Tony Pollard, with his strong performances week in and week out, and up against a defense that just got gashed by Breece Hall, by a defense that isn't good against the run, I like Pollard as a top 12 running back. Julius Chestnut, you obviously don't want to play him. Ray Davis, with James Cook missing Monday Night Football with the toe injury, I wouldn't be surprised if James Cook missed yet again. Last week, it was evident that without James Cook, they wanted to feed the ball to Ray Davis. Now, last week, I was wrong on this situation. I told you all week that James Cook wasn't going to play, but I honestly thought, based on what I had seen, making an educated decision was that the team liked Ty Johnson more. and that he was the one that was going to have the feast, Game of Thrones style. If you've ever read the books where George R. R. Martin, that fat fuck, is just basically writing food porn in there for you. He's like, oh, the turkey leg is moist like this, and it's all fucking crazy if you ever read that. But that's the type of meal that I thought that Ty Johnson was going to have, but instead it went to Ray Davis. You know, sometimes you get in the batter's box and you hit a home run. You hit it out of the park. You're at Giants Stadium in San Francisco. You hit the thing into the pond where there's people kayaking. You take someone out, hit them in the dome with the baseball. But that time I got into the batter's box, I swung, and the ball was already in the catcher's mitt, and I struck out. Davis was the running back 14 last week with 20 carries for 97 yards and 3 receptions for 55 yards. He had over 150 all-purpose yards, which was a true sight to behold. If Cook is out again up against the Titans, I expect Ray Davis to be a reliable middling running back too. Ty Johnson played just 36% of the snaps. Davis had 58%. Johnson looked good out there when he got the ball, but he only had 4 touches compared to Ray Davis's 23. If the volumes and snap looks similar, then there's really no reason to play Ty Johnson. And obviously, if James Cook plays, you would start him over all those guys and bench both Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. All right, so we just edited this in. We're going to cut this in. This did happen as I was editing the video. It doesn't really affect the running backs here, but the Buffalo Bills, I guess it would make the Bills offense better, giving more touchdown equity potentially to Ray Davis or James Cook. But the Cleveland Browns have just traded Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. As a Dolphins fan, now Davante Adams is in the East. Now, the Browns have traded Amari Cooper to the Bills. What's next? Is Randy Moss coming out of fucking retirement to play for the Patriots? Not great. Not great for the Dolphins, but again, my expectations are kind of in the gutter as of right now. Hopefully, Tua can save this offense, but man, that's a great trade for the Buffalo Bills. It is a 3rd round pick and a 7th round pick. The 3rd round pick is in 2025, 7th round pick in 2026. We'll talk about it a little bit more in depth in the wide receiver video, but this is great for the offense. Again, they're going to be able to move the ball a lot more effectively now, which will definitely be a big positive note for the offense as a whole. It'll help bump up Josh Allen. It will make Amari Cooper actually fantasy football relevant, and it will help out the running game as well. So let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think about this trade. We'll go a little bit more in depth on it in the wide receiver start sit video. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like button down below so you get that video. Love you guys. Back on into the actual video. Next up, we move to the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns. And normally when the Cincinnati Bengals are playing with how dog shit the defense is, it's super exciting to watch them play because they're going to chase in the game and the other offense is going to get up and it's going to be this super high scoring back and forth affair. But up against the Cleveland Browns, this is the type of game that, you know, hopefully the Bengals just beat down on them. That would be fun for fantasy, but this game doesn't really have all that much juice. Now, before we break down this game and the rest of the games, including all the games on Sunday Night Football, talking about that Davante Adams trade a little bit. If you guys missed the Davante Adams trade video from earlier today, make sure that you check that out. And as well as getting the doubleheader on Monday Night Football, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our partner over at Underdog. Now, if you're new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, you will get your free pick for Thursday Night Football, which is Bo Nix higher than half of a total yard. You match that with one of the players on the Saints or any of the players going on Sunday or the doubleheader on Monday Night Football, and you'll receive 3 times what you put into your pick'em. Now, if you do multiple other picks, instead of 2, you do 3, 4, 5, and so on, then the payout will be higher. So sign up using promo code Notorious to get the free pick or by clicking on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment. Plus, you will also get a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash if you're watching this after Thursday Night Football already kicked off. If you sign up with promo code Notorious, then you receive a different free pick. It's just going to be a different player higher than half of a total yard, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So back on into things, an AFC North division rivalry matchup. We got the Bengals at the Browns. Now, Chase Brown has been balling like his name was I-Man Shumpert, baby. Over the last 3 weeks, he has had 3 straight top 20 performances and 2 of 3 games inside of the top 10. And last week, Chase Brown clearly led the team in snaps with 62% to Zach Moss's 45%, which was very nice if you were a Chase Brown owner, and not so good if you had Zach Moss. Brown continues to look better than Moss as he just has much more burst, much more pizzazz when he's running or catching passes. Even though Saquon did end up shitting the bed up against this Browns defense last week, I expect the Bengals to be up and down running the rock a ton, leading to a low-end running back 2 performance. And by up and down, I mean moving the ball up and down the field very easily, very fluently, like a hot knife through some butter. And if they're able to get up big here, they're going to be able to just churn the rock with Chase Brown. Now, I'm going to keep it 100 here. If you are down bad and have to play Zach Moss, it's not that bad, okay? I get his snaps, his touches were far from ideal last week, but he was coming off the ankle injury, which could, not did, could have led to his snaps dipping. But that also could have been because of the fumble. I wouldn't be shocked if Moss had a decent game here, but ultimately, when push comes to shove with how things are sitting right now, I don't feel the most confidence in Zach Moss. For my GOAT, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, he is expected to return this week from that crazy multi-ligament knee injury early on in week 2 last season. Nick Chubb, since entering into the NFL, has been one of my personal favorite running backs to watch. And while I am a Nick Chubb stan, if you are going to start him in his first game back, you need to be taken on a one-way trip to a grippy sock vacation. You are an absolute lunatic if you want to play Nick Chubb. For one, they are going to use a technique that we talked about all summer. And we're not talking about the grapefruit technique. We're talking about the just the tip technique where they're going to ease him in, right? They're not going to go balls deep. They're not going to throw him straight to the wolves and have him play the crazy workload that we're used to. And 2, so it's not just a 1 point, it's 2 points here, okay? The second point is that even with how much we love Chubb, even with how great the guy is, with how dog shit this offense is, even if the Bengals defense isn't good, which we know for a fact, I don't think Chubb will do enough to get it done. With Jerome Ford being week to week with the hammy, Chubb returning from the injury as well, I do think Foreman and Chubb and Pierce will potentially be in a triple-headed backfield here that is just no good for anyone. So really no reason, in my opinion, to play any Browns running back. Next up, we move to the Houston Texans at the Green Bay Packers. Now, Joe Mixon has been out since what feels like the Ice Age. Shout out to my guy, Sid the Sloth. But he did return last week, and he returned to form instantly. It was like he never left. He came out the gate as a top 5 running back against the Patriots in Foxborough. 13 carries for 102 yards, which is 7.8 yards per carry, and a touchdown with 2 receptions on 3 targets for 30 yards, as well as another touchdown. So 2 total touchdowns, over 130 total yards. Now, even up against Green Bay, who averaged the 8th least amount of rushing yards against them per game, I expect Joe Mixon to ball out. His snaps were only about 42% last week, which is not normal for Mixon, right? Mixon's the type of guy that should see 60-ish%. And honestly, once he gets more and more healthy, he should be at 70+%. So keep ramping Mixon up. I get losing Nico Collins sucks, but they still have Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Schultz. They have the weapons out there for the team to advance the ball to get into scoring scenarios for Mixon. Dameon Pierce is another one of those guys that is one of my GOATs, right? I called Dameon Pierce in his rookie year. The guy went crazy. And then I called him last year. I was like, oh, I'm going to draft him again. And then he fucking reamed me in the ass. But This year, I was off of him, but he's still my GOAT because I love Dameon Pierce deep down. In week 6, he had 8 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown, and he had 1 catch for 1 yard. Even though I do have some strong feelings for Dameon Pierce, I love him. No Diddy, I do believe Mixon is the bell cow, and he's going to be getting more carries, more snaps, so there's no need to play Pierce, even with how good he looked last week. Josh Jacobs continues to be very, very frustrating. It's like the first time you hook up with a new chick and she uses too much teeth and gives you the cheese grater special instead of the Gawk Gawk 9000 special. Now, the upside is there for you to get sucked dry, but frankly, it's just been a tease. It has not worked. And that's what it feels like for Jacobs. It feels like the upside's there. You know Jacobs can get 25 plus fantasy points. You know the offense can get it done. You know the offense could lay a smackdown runner and score 40 plus points in any given game and lead Jacobs to having a great performance. But it just isn't happening. The carries are there and the targets are there sometimes, but outside of week 5 in LA up against the Rams, the dude is yet to be a top 12 running back. He feels like a solid running back too because the volume is so steady, but, and this is a big but, shout out to Iggy Azalea, I just can't justify him ranking him higher than that. He is just a he's just a mid-range running back too for me. Emmanuel Wilson looked very good when given the ball. But the thing is, he doesn't really get the ball much, about 6 to 8 carries a game and the occasional target, so you can't even start him regardless of how good he looks, but he does appear to be a solid handcuff. Next up, we move to my Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins #1 at the "This is our Colts, this is our team, we bleed blue." I might have to make like a Dolphins version of that and sing that, but the Indianapolis Colts going up against the Dolphins in Indianapolis. Devon Achane suffered a concussion against the Patriots, and with the bye week being last week, it would make sense that Achane could play in this game. But concussions are a tough topic to discuss in terms of how long is a player going to be out, because with other injuries, the timeline is relatively similar, right? You're in the NFL, you're getting the proper treatment. If you injure a certain body part, you're out for the X amount of weeks, basically every single time, sometimes slightly quicker, sometimes slightly longer, but overwhelmingly, they give you a timeline. They're coming back within that amount of time. With a concussion, Achane might have just missed that a majority of that game that he got hurt in, and then they had the bye week, and then he's back this week all fine and dandy. There's also a chance that he misses multiple other games as well, so it is very up in the air. Now, Achane has been a disaster ever since Tua has gotten hurt, but based upon what I saw prior to the bye up against the Patriots was a Dolphins offense committed to the run, which is what I was calling for Mike McDaniel to do ever since Tua got hurt, and he finally was like, oh, let's actually do that. And while that was after Achane got hurt because it was so early on in the game, Mostert got fed and the offense looked way better. Raheem Mostert had 19 carries for 80 yards and 2 catches for 18 yards. Now, if they give Achane that amount of carries that they gave Mostert last week, then against one of the worst teams against the run in the NFL, Achane should at least be a low-end running back too, but there is still a lot of worry there, where Mike McDaniel does something one week, he's this genius, boy genius, run game aficionado, and then the next week he's trying to throw the ball 45 times a game like he thinks Tua's in there, when in reality it's Tyler Huntley. So there is still a lot of caution tape you need to wrap around Devon Achane. Assuming Achane is good to go, I would rather see Raheem Mostert perform with Achane over be confident in rolling him out just because of what he did last week and thinking or not last week, but the last game out because they were on bye back in week 5. And until Tua's back, I really just don't think it's feasible to play a lot of guys in this offense, because it's not like, with Tua up against the Colts, the Dolphins could score 40 points, right? Now, they weren't looking the best to start off the season, so I'm not saying that they would. I'm not making excuses here as a Dolphins fan, but if Tua played, that's in the cards. It is. It just is. If you have a fucking brain, you know that. But without Tua, it's like you're trying to hopefully get like 21 points and hope Anthony Richardson fucks everything up. And even with this being a wet dream spot, I don't feel confident in starting both running backs. Jonathan Taylor has missed now back-to-back games with a high ankle sprain. And I told everyone when they're like, oh, it's just a minor high ankle sprain. A high ankle sprain is typically never minor. It's typically a multiple week injury, and he could easily miss week 7. Again, something you want to monitor. This will lead to a combo backfield of Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson that even up against a putrid Dolphins run defense, I just don't want anything to do with. Trey had 18 carries for 29 fucking yards last week. His touchdown bailed him out in week 5 up against Jacksonville, so I don't really feel confident in either Sermon or Goodson, especially since I think the offense is going to take a step back with Anthony Richardson under center, and it's a clear split share. Goodson had 8 carries for 51 yards last week and 4 receptions on 5 targets for 14 yards. There's no reason to play either guy, and if Jonathan Taylor was to play, you would want him in, though. Next up, we move to matchup numero 8 here, the halfway point in today's video. The Detroit Lions at the cold like Minnesota Vikings. So if you have enjoyed thus far, hit that subscribe button with the left hand of Alex Poatan Pajeda, and hit that subscribe button down below if you are new to the channel. So for these guys, the Lions at least, it's pretty obvious. Now, outside of a disappointing showing last week in such a great matchup against Dallas, I was salivating thinking of this matchup up against Dallas. Gibbs has been a top 15 back in all games and feels like a real safe bet to just be a, at minimum, 16 point per game type of guy. Last week, he finished in the low end of the running back 2s, meaning close to running back 24 with 12 carries for 63 yards, 3 receptions on 5 targets for 28 yards. And honestly, if you didn't watch the game, right, if you were just looking on your phone and you opened up whatever app you use to check the score of the games, or you go on Google and you saw, wow, the Lions won 47-9. That's going to be a whole discussion when the Cowboys are not on bye and we can actually talk about them in more in depth, because I'm not going to waste a bunch of time here talking about the Cowboys because they're not even playing. But if that's a disaster on Jerry Jones's birthday, but if you would have heard, holy shit, they won 47-9, you'd be like, okay, Gibbs and Monty probably formed an Eiffel Tower over the Cowboys, right? He probably got at least 15, 16 points, right? But instead he didn't. So there are better days ahead, though, so you shouldn't really panic as a whole. But this game does make me kind of want to jump into a doomsday shelter, as that Brian Flores defense, especially up against the run, is very nice. So I'm pretty nervous about Gibbs. He's not in the top 12 for me, more of a high-end running back too. Now, David Montgomery loves the end zone. He loves the end zone as much as I love eating Taco Bell. And when I wear a t-shirt, sometimes you can see that I'm rocking A-cups at the moment. So you can tell that I love Taco Bell, which is why you can tell that David Montgomery also loves the end zone. Montgomery has 6 scores on the season, which is 2 more than Abe Lincoln has. Last week in Jerry's world, he had 12 carries for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 reception for 0 yards as a top 12 back. Monty is a safe running back weekly to be a top 18-ish guy. But again, I want you guys to be very, 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 very cautious with assuming that Montgomery's a lock to score a touchdown when he's going up against the Vikings defense. Aaron Jones is dealing with a hip injury and did some limited work in practice on Monday. This is a situation that needs to be monitored closely. Now, they are coming off of a bye week, and Jones did get hurt in London up against the Jets, but that does not guarantee his health. Same thing with Achane coming off the bye. I'm not going to guarantee that he's going to play. Now, for a majority of the season, when Jones has played, been very positive, right? Sure, maybe not busting through the wall like the Kool-Aid man and being like a top 5 guy every week, right? But he's reliable, at least top 16 guy in most games. And even if he does return, and even with the positive play on the season, though, the Lions have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. Now, Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, so maybe Aaron Jones can gash him a little easier now, but still not the most positive. So if you have to start Jones, he's far from an ideal start. He's not even close to ideal. He is a fringe running back 3 type of start. Now, if Chandler gets the nod to go where Jones can't play, in most matchups, I'm chomping at the bit, thinking about throwing Chandler into my lineup. The cold like Minnesota Vikings offense has looked great with mono man Sam under center, but here, up against a rock hard Lions D, I would just put Chandler in the same range as Jones. And honestly, if you were too nervous to start Chandler, I wouldn't even argue you on that. Next up, we got a NFC East rivalry matchup, the Eagles at the Giants. Now, Saquon Barkley, revenge game. This could get dirty here. Now, just like Jahmyr Gibbs, who we just talked about, Saquon Barkley was a big fat bust last week up against the Browns in a great spot. 18 carries for just 47 yards and 2 receptions on 2 targets for 7 yards. Nick Sirianni is a disgrace to all Italians. The man was yelling at Eagles fans on the sideline because he's just the biggest douchebag in the National Football League. Instead of getting Saquon to smash in such a great spot, he was just running his mouth up against a very bad Browns team, and that's now 2 straight disappointments for Barkley outside of the top 20. And last week he finished outside of the top 30. But Saquon is still him. And will bounce back as a top 5 guy, in my opinion. We just saw Chase Brown thrash that defense last week in MetLife. And this is a I'm coming home, tell the world I'm coming home game for Mr. Barkley back to New Jersey. With Kenneth Gainwell, the Eagles have a clear 2-back system. They don't really use 3 guys. It's just 2 guys. Saquon is the workhorse. Gainwell is the running back 2, getting about 20% of snaps weekly. And even with the 15-plus snaps, he only receives about 1 to 3 touches a week, so no need to even play him. For the Giants, if you have Devin Singletary and Tyron Tracy, you would just be hoping that Singletary is out again, because with Tracy as the clear lead back, he has been clearly better than Singletary and has top 12 upside. Back-to-back weeks with 14 or more fantasy points as the league back, and a top 8 performance last week up against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. 17 carries for 50 yards and a score, the only score for the Giants, with 6 catches on 6 targets for 57 yards. I love Tracy here as a mid-range to high-end running back 2 if he plays. Now, if Singletary starts, we back him up. Back him up to potentially being just a running back 3 type of guy, because I think Tracy has now clearly carved a path into getting touches in this offense to where it's not just going to be Singletary, and that will kind of stab in the back of Singletary. So I'm hoping, personally, Singletary doesn't play again. I'm not hoping for him to be hurt or something like that. I don't root for injuries here. Knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, but if he was to miss, that would be the best case scenario for the Giants team and for Tracy. Next up, we move to the 4 p.m. slate, beginning with the Las Vegas Raiders at the Los Angeles Rams. Now, speaking of the Rams, when you have Kyren Williams, you start him, right? It's as easy as A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, like the Jackson 5. The guy lives in the end zone, 6 touchdowns in 5 games, with a touchdown or more in every single game. Going up against the Raiders, he should be able to sling out the back shots here. I love Kyren Williams in this spot, and he is a lock to be a top 6 back. Blake Corum, prior to last week, we barely have been seeing Corum. That was his first touch since week 2. 5 carries for 25 yards against the Packers, as well as a catch for 8 yards. While a lot of people were kind of fiddling with this dude's Johnson all offseason, it is clear that Kyren is the guy and no need to play Corum or any other back not named Kyren on the LA Rams. For the Raiders, assuming that Zamir White is out again, Madison is a fine high-end running back 3. His upside is there due to being the clear lead back and having solid pass-catching abilities. But there are also clear negatives, right? For one, the offense sucks more than the average gloryhole.com video. And that leads, spoiler alert, when your offense sucks, you're going to get down. When you get down, you can't run. And when you can't run, that hurts the running backs. Pretty easy scenario to break down, but that's how it works. They have to throw the ball more. That does not lead to positive game script for Alexander Madison. And you really need a touchdown for him to be good. So again, it's not like I want him to be a start. He's barely even a start. Samir's been out there for the last 2 weeks with the groin injury, so he hasn't been playing, which is great for Zamir White's owners. Why is it great that he's hurt? So you don't fucking, for some reason, oh my God, I like this matchup for Zamir White, Nick. This is going to be the game. He does it. He's going to bounce back. And then you play him and he fucking fists you for less than 7 points every single game. And even if he falls ass backwards into 15 plus touches, you would have to be huffing gasoline to start him. I hope he misses, not because I want him to be hurt, but because I actually can play Madison with a lot more confidence. Next up, we move to the Carolina Panthers at the left. Hands up. Who are we? The Commanders. And I don't know if any one of you guys are on Twitter. If you are, follow me at NotoriousFantasy. But there was an assault after that Commanders-Ravens game. And I hate that people do this, right? Like, look, I'm a passionate Dolphins fan. If I go to a Dolphins versus a Jets game in MetLife, I don't expect someone to try to fight me. I just don't, right? I also am not going to be someone that's outrageously talking a bunch of shit to people because I don't want to get smacked, right? I'm built not the way of someone that's gonna, dodge and weave McGregor style, knock out Jose Aldo type of deal, right? I just don't have the facilities for that big man, right? I can't do that. But dude, those Commanders fans, if you haven't seen this video, this Ravens fan he's a real big and brolic guy, he knocked the fuck out of some Commanders fan. And I just thought that was something to mention. But they did figure out who the guy was. And he's getting sued. He got fired from his job. Because again, it's not like sometimes like when there's a fight and, the little guy, David versus Goliath, he goes in there and he's like, oh, I'm fucking David. You're Goliath. I'm going to beat the shit out of you as this little guy, which could have happened there, but it's not what happened. The guy just charged at him, the Ravens fan, for no reason. And, he stood no chance. He got knocked out. And that was brutal. Like, I'm someone that I enjoy watching fight videos if it's like a, consensual, hey, fucking put the Dukes up 1v1 matchup. But that's not what that was. I don't know why I started talking about that. No one gives a shit, and we're already 40 minutes in this video. Nick, you go for way too long. Something my fiance never says because, put it in and it's over. But you know what I'm saying. But Juba Hubbard, you start him, right? No brainer. Jonathan Brooks will have his practice window opened up from the IR this week, which means that Brooks's return is coming. I'm going to come, but not a guarantee this week. Even if he does play, the team's going to ease him in. Just like with Nick Chubb. Early on, Hubbard has been a top 18 running back in 4 straight games. It's not a small sample size at this point. That's a majority of the season. And he's been a top 8 running back in 3 of 4 games. Last week against ATL at home in Carolina, he had 18 carries for 92 yards and 5 receptions on 6 targets for 11 yards. Against the Commanders defense, that is not good. I expect Hubbard to kick their teeth in, leaving them looking like Michael Strahan. I love Hubbard as a top 12 running back this week. Miles Sanders, in a perfect game, the perfect world, gets 8 touches. And more than likely, he gets like 5, so there's no need to play him even up against the Commanders. Brian Robinson failed to practice last week at all with the knee injury. And shocker, when you don't practice all week, you don't play. And that leaves me far from confident that B-Rob actually plays this week, but it is possible, right? Again, I'm not going to rule it out. When healthy, Brian Robinson has been a steady running back too with top 12 upside. Again, this offense is a fucking wagon. Jaden Stormy Daniels leads them down the field with ease. It's been great. This matchup against the Panthers is great. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he's guaranteed to play. Now, I am aroused with the thought of this spot to be a mid to high-end running back, too. If he doesn't play, Eckler would be a low-end start as he sees just enough targets to keep his head above water, skibbity toilet style. But that's some fucking brain rot right there. But the floor is really not the highest because, again, he's taken these couple of catches very far. If he gets stifled, if he gets rocked and doesn't bust one off for a big catch, then like the ceiling's pretty low. The floor isn't the highest. So it's not like Eckler is the most ideal play, especially since they use Jeremy McNichols as well. If Brian Robinson's in, no need to play Eckler. Next up, we got the Super Bowl matchup, the Kansas City Chiefs at the San Francisco 49ers. And we got Kareem Hunt as the lead back in Kansas City. In his second start prior to the bye week, Kareem played a majority of the snaps with 63%, P. Ryan had just 25%, and Carson, stop the steal, had 19% versus the Saints. While I was hesitant, as you should have been, I don't think anyone should have been like, Kareem Hunt's guaranteed to get over 50% of the snaps. He's going to be the workhorse running back. I thought that was crazy to just assume, right? It was possible. It was obviously possible, but I didn't think that was the guaranteed locked and loaded scenario, but that was the case. Buddy ran for over 100 yards and a touchdown with one catch for 15 yards as the running back 5. This week, while the 49ers matchup isn't the most ideal, and even if Clyde Edwards-Helaire returns, which doesn't even seem like the most likely scenario, I hope the guy's okay, dealing with a PTSD scenario, I believe. So again, we're not going to talk too much about anything like that. I do hope the guy's okay, though. People are like dicks on the internet. Like, this happened to Calvin Ridley, something similar, where it was like a mental health thing, and people were just shitting on him. So don't shit on these guys. Any type of injury or anything. Like, that's one of the things that does piss me off the most about fantasy football. I love fantasy football. You guys are all great, everyone in the comment section. But like, when people go and attack a guy like, oh, if you would have got me 2 more fantasy points, I would have won my week. Go fuck yourself. And you like DM. I'm sure if I get mad on the video about a player, the player's not watching this video. They're not. But if you DM the guy, they might see that, and I think that is kind of messed up. Again, they could wipe their tears away with their millions of dollars. Sure. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt you to be nice. Maybe they'll be, you encourage them. Go DM them. Great job last week. Let's get another great week, and they'll be happy, Be nice and encouraging if you're going to DM them, if you're going to slide into their DMs like they're an OnlyFans model. So I believe Hunt should be considered at minimum as a mid-tier running back 2 with clear top 5 upside. I like him this week. Samaje P. Ryan, assuming Clyde is out, you will see some Steele and some P. Ryan, while neither guy being the clear number 2 option. Even if you are in the most dire scenario, I would not be confident in playing either guy not named Kareem Hunt. Jordan Mason. The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? Hurt his shoulder on Thursday Night Football. It was looking like such a good game, man. It was looking so great. But now he's considered day-to-day. He was rocking the non-contact injury in practice on Monday, and his availability is up in the air. If he plays, you obviously have to start him, because again, he was on his way to a huge game. Prior to the injury, he had 9 carries for 73 yards and 1 catch on 2 targets for 9 yards. When healthy, he is close to a lock to being a top 12 back, but due to his matchup, I don't love this spot. He's more of a fringe RB1 high-end running back too. Isaac Guerendo. If Mason misses, it will be Guerendo season. Apparently, running backs grow on trees in Santa Clara. The man had 10 carries for 99 yards, 9.9 yards per carry. Pretty quick math there. He won't be a lock to be a top 12 guy like Mason, right? And I wouldn't even rank him as a high-end running back too, but a mid-range running back too, mostly due to the fact that I'm unsure if he would be able to cook here up against that Chiefs run defense. Next up, we move to, cause you waited all day for Sunday night, the Jets and Devontae Adams at the Pittsburgh Steelers in what used to be Heinz Field, but they changed their name, but it's still Heinz Field in my heart. Brees returned to form last week after a change in play calling as the running back numero 7 against the Bills in a penalty-filled Monday Night Football game. The penalties ruined what could have been an all-time classic type of a game. 18 carries for 113 yards and 5 receptions for 56 yards. And honestly, if Rodgers saw him a few more times when he was butt booty naked wide open, or if Hall could have scored that touchdown that he should have had, then things would have been far better. But hey, he still had a huge day. And going forward this season, we should see a lot more top 12 games out of Brees, especially with Adams now in town, pushing this offense to a whole nother level. This week against the Steelers, I am nervous, but I would still give him the nod as a low-end running back 1. I like what I've seen out of Braylon Allen when given the touches, but unless the team is up by a zillion points, which I wouldn't really project in this game, you can't really project him to have enough touches to quantify starting him, especially up against the Steelers defense. Steelers. Now, there's been a change. The Jets got Adams, but the Steelers are allegedly considering, and not allegedly, actually, this is true, considering playing Mr. Unlimited instead of Justin Fields. I know, Justin Fields isn't the best quarterback. I know he's not. But they have a positive record. They're going up against the Jets, a team, historically, that struggles against rushing quarterbacks. We saw Josh Allen seal the deal with a rush last night. So why in the fuck would you go to Russell Wilson instead of Justin Fields? It makes no sense. Now, there's been talks of, maybe it's going to be a 2-quarterback system, which is even worse. Might as well pull trig, shove your fingers down your throat and fucking puke, or take whatever that was from the Hunger Games where you'd automatically throw up so you can have the feast before the Hunger Games started. But Najee, he looked good last week. He did. He ripped that Raiders defense in half like that gorilla did to SpongeBob in that one episode. Running back 10 with 14 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 16 yards. The Jets defense is middle of the road against the run. But if they go with Russell Wilson, it's just not very exciting. And Najee's not exciting either. He's going to get you 10 to 12 to 14 points. And hopefully he keeps the heat up, but he's just really a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3 type of start. Jaylen Warren has been nothing short of ass this season. There's no real way to sugarcoat it. Even when healthy, he makes Najee Harris look like Bo Jackson. We all know Najee isn't that good either. Warren is clearly not in favor with Arthur Smith. And until things change, you just don't want to play him, even in the spot against the Jets. Next up, we got the first of 2 Monday Night Footballs, because who doesn't love 2 Monday Night games? I personally actually don't like 2 Monday Night games, but let me know in the comment section. Do you guys like the 2 Monday Night games, or would you prefer another 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock game instead of this? Or maybe they should try out a doubleheader on Sunday Night Football. They've yet to do that, at least recently, off the top of my head. So the Baltimore Ravens at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tractorcito Derrick Henry is a stone cold lock, like his name was Steve Austin. What? To be a top 12 running back every single week. And normally we say twice on Sunday, but twice on Monday. As long as the Ravens can stay in the game, if we have a matchup where we see the Ravens more than likely chasing, then Henry's going to have to fall down the rankings, right? If you think the Buccaneers are going to go out there and just raw dog the Ravens, then you should be a little bit nervous. But even with how good the Buccaneers offense looks, I do think the Ravens will at least be in the game. I don't think they're going to get blown out to where Justice Hill actually sees enough touches. So Henry should be at minimum a top 12 running back. I got him in the top 5. The man has scored a touchdown or more in every single game, and I don't expect the choo-choo train here to stop up against the Buccaneers. Big Justice Hill was not a boom. He was more of a doom last week against the Commanders as the running back 57. Hill and Derrick Henry, we just talked about it. They need polar opposite scenarios to succeed. Hill needs the team to be down bad to get volume, and Henry needs the team to be in the game, EA Sports style, or winning the game. And with me expecting the Ravens to at least be in the game, no reason to play Justice Hill. Now, if Rashad White misses with the foot injury, then I do believe Bucky Irving will move up to being a start-worthy player. With Rashad White in things, though, this could easily be a disaster, triple-headed backfield of pain with Bucky, Rashad White, and Sean Tucker. Now, Sean Tucker Carlson owned the Libs last week. He was the running back 1 with 14 carries for 136 yards and a touchdown with 3 catches for 56 yards and a score. Now, Bucky was also a top 12 running back as the running back 12 with 14 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown with 2 receptions for 24 yards. No need to get cute here and play any of the guys if White is in. If White is out, I am still going to be rocking with Bucky as a low-end running back 2 to high-end running back 3. Rashad White hasn't done diddly squat all season besides week 1, and with the emergence of Bucky and the emergence of Sean Tucker, ain't no reason to play Rashad White. He has been banished to Azkaban, banished to the bench. Final game here, the final Monday Night Football performance. The Los Angeles Chargers, the Superchargers, at the Arizona Cardinals. Shout out to Boltman. J.K. Dobbins continues to operate as the lead back in L.A. Kamani Vidal made his NFL debut last week and looks solid. He looks solid, which is great for him. That's awesome. But ultimately, Dobbins is the guy there. 65 50% or more of the snaps in 3 straight games, and that will continue here up against the Cardinals, whose defense has more holes than a fucking golf course. Last week, against a solid Broncos run defense, he was a top 14 running back with 25 carries for 96 yards. You flip that around, you get 69. Very nice. I like my name is Borat, which is great, right? He had 96 yards, and he also had a touchdown and 2 catches for 6 touchdown. I don't know why my voice just fucking cracked. I'm 25 years old. I'm too old for that. I love JK here as a low-end running back 2 to high-end running back 3. Vidal looked good, like I said. In his first NFL game, he had 4 rushes for 11 yards, 2 receptions for 40 yards, and a touchdown. While that was sick, it was cool. It was totally fucking tubular. Like I said with Dobbins, we know JK's the guy, so you can't be playing Vidal, but he does look like a solid handcuff. James Conner is currently dealing with an ankle injury after their L to the Green Bay Packers. He got his ankles taped, and he fumbled, which led to more usage for the other guys. With Connor's injury history, this is something you want to follow. It's not, again, I'm not saying, oh, he's guaranteed to be out, but I'm just saying you want to follow it, right? If he was able to play with the up and down nature of the Cardinals offense, it makes it difficult to rank Connor super highly. Plus, they're playing up against the Chargers. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he was literally the running back 5. If he was a top 12 running back, it wouldn't surprise me. But I also would feel the exact same way if he was the running back 37, the running back 49, right? If he fell outside the top 30, I also wouldn't be surprised. Again, because the Chargers defense deserves the credit. They deserve to get their balls fucking fondled like a hernia check. So makes me nervous. I'm a little bit nervous with J.K. Dobbins. I got him as a mid to low end running back 2, kind of pushing more towards the lower end of things. Trey Freddie Benson, when Connor was phased out of the snaps with the injury and the fumble, the team gave Amari DiMarcado 53% of the snaps and Benson just 19% of the snaps. They were also down early, though, which could have led to them giving more touches to DiMarcado. But even if Connor misses, I do really believe Benson would be the guy. But again, with a split share, potentially of death, and with the Chargers defense being so good, I wouldn't want to play either of them. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure you do hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. Check out the Davante Adams video I dropped earlier today. We went in depth talking about the Davante Adams trade, how it affects Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers, Adams, Garrett Wilson, and make sure you guys check out all the videos coming the next couple of days. We'll be live on Thursday prior to Thursday Night Football. I love you guys all so much. Thank you guys all so much for the subscriber growth we have seen. It means everything to me, the support you guys have shown. I love you guys so much. Make sure you guys do check out Underdog. Promo code Notorious to claim your free pick. Bo Nix higher than half a total yard, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I love you guys more than you will ever know. Check out one of the videos on the screen if you haven't seen them already. Have a great one. As always, good boy.